Good morning. It is Friday morning, and we are live here at Ruth's Stitchery in Colorado Springs, Colorado. We're switching things up a little bit today. You'll notice it's LQ greeting you, not Beth, because I've taken over for the day. We have been doing a video once a month with Meet the Staff with a couple of our staff members, and Beth has been interviewing them. And we've gone through all the staff, but our newest member, we decided to let her settle in a little bit first. So I said to Beth, let's do a Meet the Staff this week. And she said, who's left? And I said, you. So today
I was really thinking about it. Like, wait, who's left that we haven't done? Me.
Beth. So today I'm going to interview Beth and let you get to know her just a little bit better.
I'm in the hot seat.
You're in the hot seat.
And so, the bad thing is I said, well, I'll answer anything. I guess we'll find out. I guess we'll find out if I'll answer anything.
I think you'll answer all of these. Okay. I'm going soft on you this time.
Right.
We can always do a part two some other time.
Yes, you're so kind.
I know.
Okay.
So how did you get started in quilting?
Well, so my mom, who's probably watching, hi Mom, my mom taught me how to sew when I was little, and I do remember going to a store, picking out fabric and making shorts. I don't remember how old I was, but sometime elementary-ish school, fourth, fifth grade maybe. And so I remember making shorts with little elastic bands or whatever, but I think I very quickly was like, this does not interest me at all. I ran track. I was an athlete. Like, that's kind of what I did. And then my mom taught me how to cross stitch when I was in high school. So I remember starting to cross stitch in high school and continued to do that. And then I married my husband, who was in the Army, and we went over to Germany. And one of my first friends that I met over there also was a cross stitcher. And so her and I became fast friends. She's still my best friend today. But we said when we leave Germany and come back to the United States, we were going to teach ourselves how to quilt. So we did. We bought a book. We taught ourselves how to quilt. And pretty much the rest is history. So that was, I think I figured out 28 years ago. And for a little while, I would cross stitch, then I would quilt, and then I would cross stitch, and then I would quilt. And then after a few years of the battle between the two, quilting won the war. And and that's kind of what my creative outlet has been. Although I still cross stitch a little bit. I do a lot of hand work. So, but yeah, that's how I got started.
Okay, thank you.
And now I taught my mom how to quilt.
I think that's awesome. She's such a great student.
She is. She's fantastic.
So do you have any favorite quilts?
Oh, well, I know I ask that question to our staff all the time, and I know it's a really hard one. When you've been quilting for a long time, it is very hard to narrow it down. So I actually did suggest that we stand here because two of my favorite quilts are right behind us that I have made. This one is called Medallion Melody, and the reason that that is one of my favorite quilts is because I made that quilt with my friend Susan, who is the same person I started quilting with, right after we learned how to needle turn applique. And we learned how to do it, and we said, let's go find a quilt pattern to do. And we don't do anything easy, so that's the one we chose. So this was my first needle turn applique project that I did, and it also shows that I love scrappy quilts. There are so many different fabrics in that. I just love it. So that's probably one of my all-time favorites. And I always tell people there is a sister quilt hanging in Rhode Island because it's in Susan's house. Oh. And it's very, very similar, but we did change up some colors. But we traded fabrics back and forth. So some of her fabrics are in there, and it's great. This one was one of my block parties a couple years ago called Gossip in the Garden. I have found that I absolutely love a lot of Australian designers. And I think I love this quilt too because I'm finding more and more I like to do quilts that have a ton of different things in it. I don't typically do a lot of quilts that's just one block or, two blocks put together. I like when every block is a little bit different, it has different techniques in it because then I don't get bored. So, so I love this one. And it turned out really good. It's got a little mix of everything. It's got some paper piecing, it's got regular piecing, it's got applique, it has English paper piecing, it has embroidery. So a little bit of everything is in that quilt. So I also brought two quilts from home that are some of my favorites. This one just needs a binding put on it, and I need to do this pretty quickly because it really should be hanging in the store right now. This was also a block party that I did. Um, I lose track of when, so I actually think this one was going on maybe at the same time that one was going on.
Of course.
And we did this one kind of a rush. We did it in 6 months as a block party. But again, obviously, you can tell there's a lot of different blocks in here. There's some Dresdens, there's some embroidery, there's some applique. Um, and I just love it. And I love Christmas. And this just needs a binding put on it. And it's been sitting there waiting for it. So this was probably one of my favorites.
It is beautiful. You have to show the back too.
Yeah.
It's just a great pieced back.
And actually, this I took from Pam Swaving, who teaches classes for us. And she is a dear friend. And she took this class when I was teaching it. And this is what she did to finish hers. She took all the chunks of fabric that were left over in the kit that we'd put together. And that's how she did her backing. And I'm like, oh, I'm so doing that because I mean, sometimes you have a kit and you end up with a lot of fabric left over that you don't end up using, and then it goes into your stash. Who doesn't love stash? However, I have so much stash that I thought this is perfect. I'm going to just put so big chunks together and make the backing. So this was what was left over.
That is fantastic.
So thanks. Okay, the other one I brought is a quilt I made for my husband. My husband was in the Army. He did 25 years before retiring. During that time, he deployed about 8 times. So he was gone a lot. And the last deployment that he went on was a 15-month deployment. So he was gone almost a year and a half. And while he was gone, I had a couple of friends, Susan, the one I've already mentioned, whose husband also deployed during that time, and another quilter friend whose husband deployed with my husband. We decided we would make them a quilt for to give them when they came back. So we each made our husbands a quilt. I don't remember actually where this pattern came from. It might have been in a magazine. Um, so I made this for him, and I'm not really very good about labeling my quilts these days, but I used to really be good about labeling on my quilts. So this was the label that I put on it. I had fabric that was a flag, and then I just wrote in the lines here, and we called it Welcome Home. And it has his name and how long he was deployed, like the months and years he was deployed, where he was. And then we just said, you were very missed. So that was on here. And so this is the quilt that I made him. I think that's the top.
No, the flags are upside down.
Oops. Sorry. That's the top. So I had collected some patriotic fabric over the years. And so I basically used a bunch of stash fabric that I had. And then I fussy cutted some things. But I think this was out of a magazine. But you can see again, like all the blocks in the middle are different. So we didn't get bored when we put it together. So we each made the exact same quilt using our own stash. So it was kind of funny when we laid all three of them out. One had very light backgrounds. Mine was kind of the middle one, and then the other one, the backgrounds were even darker than what I've done. But
Wow.
you can also see that I used to just pretty much all do Civil War reproduction fabrics. So that's totally changed now. I kind of like it all, but this was for my husband, and it was kind of funny. After I gave it to him, he didn't want to actually use it. I mean, I made it for him to use. He didn't want to use it, so it sort of stayed hanging or folded up in his office. But now, over the last few years, I've noticed he pulled it out and he realized just how warm and comfy it is. And so now, now this is the quilt that he usually is wrapped up in on the
Oh.
couch. And it's his quilt. Nobody better touch it. So I have to get this home tonight before he realizes I brought it with me today. But yeah, so this is certainly one, and probably because it has a very sentimental meaning,
Oh,
because it
yeah.
brings me back to a time when he was gone for a really long time, and he came back. So that was really nice. So this was for him.
That's one of the things I love about quilting is scrappy quilting. When you look at the different pieces, it reminds you of the other quilts that they were in.
Yep.
And
Yep.
something about when you're piecing a quilt and you're thinking of someone, then when you touch that quilt again, those memories come back
Yep.
of what you were thinking about when you were making the quilt. I love
Yep.
that about
Funny
quilting.
that you said that, because I can completely remember the three of us in my living room, um, playing with fabric, looking at the block, throwing our fabrics down. And as we started building the blocks, putting all of the blocks out, because at the time I didn't have a design wall. My carpet was my design wall.
Hmm.
And so we would be laying blocks out on my living room. They usually came over to my house to make the blocks and pick our fabrics and all that kind of stuff. So,
Very cool. Thank you
yes,
so much for bringing that in.
yes. And I've got a bunch of more that are my favorites. I don't discriminate.
What are you working on now?
Oh gosh. I'm working on a lot of things, but probably the most recent, like yesterday,
Okay.
I was sewing a baby quilt. My niece is about to have a baby, and I think sometime at the end of this month. So they didn't really have a theme for their nursery, but they had colors. So she sent me the color choices they made for paint colors. So I went and picked up the paint chips that they sent me from Sherman-Williams, and I chose fabrics that matched those colors. It was like sage green and white
Oh.
and cream and black. So it's going to turn out really pretty. So
Hmm.
I picked the fabrics, and I'm working on that right now. It's not quite done, but I got some of my blocks quick. I gotta be quick here. So I don't have too much more to go on it. So that's probably the most recent thing that I've worked on. It's a
Okay.
baby quilt.
Very cool. Thank you. Okay. Why did you want to become a quilt store owner?
Oh, geez. Um, so I know you hear this probably from lots of shop owners that it was always a dream, and it was always a dream for me. But when you're married to someone in the army, pretty much their dream is your dream. And that was what my life was. And I loved every minute of it. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but I loved him and thought, okay, well, this is what our life's going to be. So we've moved around a lot, and I followed him, and I was an accountant by degree, so it was easy for me to find a job in different places because accounting jobs are kind of like teaching and nursing jobs. They're pretty easy to find. Someone's always looking for an accountant. So I did that a little bit, and then got into a couple of other things. So I always have worked, but owning a quilt store has been a dream. I thought about opening one when we lived in Texas, and did a lot of research on it. And but I knew El Paso, Texas was not where I wanted to be forever. And so I remember the specific moment sitting on the front porch. We had just found out my husband was going to be going on that 15-month deployment, and I had been doing some research about opening a store, and I finally looked at him and said, "This is not the time." I, my kids were elementary and middle school, and
Oof.
I knew there was just no way that that was happening. So I put the dream on the back burner, and we moved a few more times, and we ended up here. And it, it was still the dream, but I'm in a new place. I didn't know really what to do. Didn't really think it would ever happen. I worked at another quilt store for a little while, and then I stopped working there because my husband was retiring and he had 90 days. My daughter, who's my youngest, was getting ready to go to college, and I thought, you know what, I don't want to work. I want to be able to just do whatever I want with them. And so that's what I did. And then about, I don't know, 6 months, 7 months later, um, this opportunity sort of came out of nowhere. And it took me by surprise when I was asked, if I thought maybe this was something I wanted to do. Um, so surprised that I was like, okay, I'll think about it. And I waited another 3, 4 months, and then finally was like, this is an opportunity to do exactly what I've wanted to do for a very long time. And my husband and I had a conversation, and I'm going to try not to cry because his words very quickly was, it's your time now. So whatever you want to
Oh.
do, it's your turn, and I'll follow you to do whatever you want to do. So that's what happened. And so I was very blessed to come on board and partner with Kathy, who taught me so much, and the staff taught me so much, and it's just been a dream come true. I mean, owning a store like this has never, ever been even a thought that could possibly happen. So I'm very blessed to be in the position that I am, and Kathy, I knew at some point would want to retire, and so I told her, "You will know when that time is ready, or when you're ready." And so she was ready last year, and so now I'm here. But I know I'm not alone. I have a fantastic staff, and so I'm the owner, but these guys run the ship. So I'm just thrilled to be part of it. So, yeah.
What's your favorite thing about owning Ruth's?
Oh, gosh.
If you could name one.
There's a lot of things, but besides the staff, who I absolutely love, um, probably my most favorite thing about being here is that I can walk out of that office and be completely inspired by the creativity that's around me. I mean, how can you not want to come here every day? I mean, just being able to be around fabric and around these beautiful quilts. And, if I get into a slump or I'm frustrated with something, all I have to do is walk out here and look at all the pretty stuff. So, besides the staff, which is probably my favorite, is just being able to work in this environment and be surrounded by creativity is probably my most favorite
I
thing.
think I can speak for the whole staff when we say we adore you as well.
Aw, thanks.
Can you tell me, is there anything that surprised you about becoming a business owner?
Hmm. Well, that's a good question. Um,
Thank you.
I don't know that there's anything that surprised me. Um, no,
You were just
I
fully
think
prepared, huh?
I think I was pretty prepared. Even though I had never owned my own business before. I think having an accounting and business background,
Mm.
that part of it, of course, I didn't know everything, but I think that sort of helped me understand the business side of it, I guess. Um, I think I just like people. I love people. I love meeting people. And of course, I love meeting and talking to people who have the same hobby as I do. And so I think, yes, it's retail, and retail can be hard, but when it's retail and something you love, um, so um, I don't know that there was anything that really surprised me. There's certainly lots of things that I've had to learn, but I think I was pretty prepared.
Oh, very
I think.
cool. You'll think of it later.
I will think of it later. I will sit up in the middle of the night and go, that's what I was surprised about. I guess one thing is, you're not only the business owner, um, you're HR, and you are the janitor, and you're, so maybe that's what surprised me. Or maybe I didn't think about it. Like all the other little things that you don't ever really want to take care of, but you have to. That's what it was.
Okay.
Okay.
So what about teaching? What's your favorite thing about teaching? Because I know you teach a lot of classes.
Um, I know the answer to that one.
Oh, okay, great.
My most favorite thing about teaching somebody to quilt or just a pattern or whatever, my most favorite thing is watching somebody who thinks they can't do it, um, and maybe starts out being a little bit frustrated and then does something. And just the look on their face and the recognition in their brain that they really could do it. I That's probably my most favorite thing,
That's
is
very cool.
watching somebody else realize how creative they are when they don't think they're creative,
That's beautiful.
and letting somebody spread their wings, um, because we all have a little creativity in ourselves, even if we don't think we do. But I think that's my most favorite thing about quilting, is seeing what everybody else is doing, but certainly that moment when someone thinks they can't do something and they do. And then, the shock on their face that they were actually able to do it. I think it's great.
All right. Are you ready for rapid fire?
I'm ready for rapid
All
fire.
right. Thank you so much for being a part of this and letting me interview you.
Well, thanks.
But I'm going to throw at you what you throw at everybody else today.
Okay.
All right. Coffee or tea?
Coffee, although I love tea.
Salty or sweet?
Sweet. Definitely sweet.
Read a book or watch a movie?
Read a book.
Beaches or mountains?
Mountains, of course. Funny story. My mom thought for sure we would retire near the ocean. When we told her we had chosen Colorado Springs as where we were going to retire, build our forever home, and this is where we're going to be, her first thing that she said was, well, I would have thought you guys would want to be near the ocean. And I very quickly was able to say to her, I love the ocean, I love the beach, but the mountains give me peace, which I didn't realize that until we lived here. But being able to look at the mountains every morning is just so peaceful to me. And so I want to live in a place that brings me peace. I can always visit the ocean.
Nice. Okay. For an evening, do you prefer to stay home or go out?
Ooh. That depends, but probably more often stay in.
Okay. Dog or cat?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'll say dog, but I love cats. But my husband doesn't love cats, so
I'm sure Lucy
I
appreciates the saying
promised him
dog.
I promised him we'll never have cats again. So I'll say dog,
Okay.
and I do love my dog.
Summer or winter?
Fall.
Fall. Okay.
um, I'll go winter.
Winter. Okay. Cake or ice cream?
Both together?
I really like ice cream with cake in it. My husband does not understand this phenomenon, but I absolutely love it.
Okay, well, let's flip that around, and it's
Ice cream on cake?
well, it's cake with ice cream in the middle,
Okay.
like an ice cream cake. Yes, that would be my choice. Yes.
Chips or crackers?
Chips. No, crackers. Yeah,
Okay.
crackers.
And the final question, I know your answer. Wash or no wash?
No wash.
Always no wash.
Always no wash, except for like the baby quilt that I'm making. Um, I did not wash the fabric prior to making it, but it will get washed before I send it to them.
I
Yeah.
have the same thing. I learned after I started adding pre-cuts into my stash that it was better to have all no wash, except for my dad's quilts because he's allergic to fabric dye.
Right. Right.
So his I wash.
Yes. There is always
An exception.
some exceptions to it, but yeah, overall, I'm a no wash girl
All right.
because I'm lazy and I just want to get right to it.
Well, thank you so much for letting
Oh,
me put you
you're
under
so
the gun.
fun.
Oh, thank you. All right,
Thanks
and
for
thank you for
listening to
joining
me.
us.